great tragedy or mystery or excitement. So today is Monday morning. Monday mornings at 10:45. I do social media news for Australia. And it's for me because I need to catch up on what has been going on in social media for the previous week, because I don't always have time to check that stuff every single day, even though I've got the app on my phone and my iPad and on my computers, and I've also got the website that I can access to see the news. Do I do it? No, not at all. So without much ado, we go to here. And I will say, somebody asked me this and I mentioned it on Twitter, but I aggregate all the RSS feeds, not all of them, some of them, from government. Some of the feeds don't work, so I have to use their Twitter accounts. But I think it was Parliament House put up a lot of the different RSS feeds, and so I'm still working on it. I've only done half a dozen, but I'm going to start bringing them in to here so that I can monitor government. I'm no longer doing the lecture series on Thursdays on government. We've now shifted to universities and colleges, social media for universities and colleges at 1 p.m. Sydney time. But and this week it's on monitoring this Thursday. But I just thought, because somebody did ask me from the government series, what's what? Yeah, it is possible to bring in the feeds, but sometimes you have to bring in their tweets because they've turned off RSS feeds on their platform, which is really silly. So, that looks all okay. I've shifted my windows around. Sorry about that. Let me have a little rant for a moment. Skype is not suitable for training at all. Cannot run virtual cameras easily. I had to backdate the software a year back to April 2020. It reverses the images, so you have to do a mirror image of your screen share if you are using a virtual camera. And the reason you need virtual cameras are things like I have a studio here that I can run. I can put straps on that have the link for the students to make note of or to review the video later and go and look at that link online. Skype is not suitable for training or education. It's perfectly fine if you just want to sit there and do a little family get-together, but everything else, multi-crap. Unless I've misunderstood, in which case, please let me know, because there are some people who like Skype. Me? Not one of them. Okay, so what's the news for today? If you are new here, my name's Laurel Papworth. I'm a social media strategist. I use Mondays to catch up on social media news, which I've already covered. And you can ask me questions in chat. I've got a tool that's supposed to bring all the chat in. I don't know if it does. And what else? Mondays, news. Yeah, that's it, I think. Oh, and I test new tech, but I haven't really changed anything this week. So let's have a look at Australian social media. That's not Australian. Winnipeg, that's not Australian. Treasurer thinks the deal under the media code is very close. Oh, for God's sake, just kill off News Corp and Nine Entertainment already, would you? And don't tell me they do journalism. They don't. They do the Daily Terror. Some sort of Valentine's faux pas taking off on social media. And then we're going to be looking at a fair code coming into Parliament this week. Oh, I saw this. Elon Musk invites Vladimir Putin to connect on Clubhouse app. I don't know if this is a paid for sub independent. No, it's not. So audio. Here's the thing with Clubhouse is, from my observation, it's insecure. It's hackable. The only session that I was on, we had ghost attendees that didn't show up in the attendee list. And we were talking about Australia Day and Indigenous, and they kept saying the N-word and being extremely racist. And there's no way to boot them out because they're ghost attendees. So it's hackable. People on there, I refuse to connect my contact list, partly because of that, partly because I've been sprung before where apps have spammed my contact list, and I have a fairly high-profile contact list. I work with government and all kinds of official bodies, so it's not just my mum who's going to get spammed, although I don't want her spammed either. It's clients and different things like that. So I don't like the fact that you're forced to upload the contact list. In fact, it's one of the reasons I don't with WhatsApp. I have a separate device for WhatsApp, and it has no connection to the contact list, my Apple contact list. And before you say, oh, well, Apple's insecure, if I have a choice between connecting via Apple or via Facebook, I choose Apple. And if I have a choice between really Apple and anything else, I'll choose Apple. But if I can get away with it, I will not connect any contact list. So there's a number of things with Clubhouse that already make me concerned. If I was Elon Musk, I would be inviting Vladimir Putin onto a different network, not Clubhouse. Until they fix it. I'm sure they'll fix it. It would be a great honour to talk to you. So Elon Musk had a Clubhouse conversation about the GameStop phenomenon with Robinhood CEO Vladimir Tenev. That'll be interesting. I need to go listen to that one. Can you listen to recorded sessions on Clubhouse, or is it only live? Yeah, I do not like closed networks. If you have to have an iPhone and it's invite only, to me it's the death knell. Like, for instance, think about what I'm doing at the moment. I'm streaming on Facebook, to Facebook, personal Facebook page of Facebook, and I can do it to groups if I want. I stream to LinkedIn, and I'm streaming to my profile, not a company page. I stream to YouTube Live, and I'm streaming to Twitter, currently to Periscope, because I still can't figure out if there is such a thing as actual Twitter Live, and whether that will be around at the end of middle March, whenever it is, when Periscope gets sunsetted. So it's entirely possible that Twitter's going to force streamers to only use their own app, in which case I'm not interested if they don't open up the API. So closed networks are not the thing, and unless it's really, like when I do private Zooms or I'm doing something for my private groups, in which case I'm fine with closed networks. But if it's marketing, information, edu-social, what's this? Rabbit ears, you know what I mean? Then I want it to be open, hosted on Clubhouse, encourage people to leave comments on there and join you there, but definitely allow people to download it, allow people to stream it to other places, allow people to cut it up. Oh, it's all ads. Okay. So he spoke to CEO of Robinhood last week, and he wants to speak to Vladimir Putin this week. Is Elon Musk a libertarian? I think he is. So he's into small government. It's kind of an odd choice for him. All right. Oh, I saw that. Gina Carano. It's crisis comms around social media posts. Africa's winemakers toast China's row with Australia. So China's blocked our wines, and I don't know why that's social media. And so obviously China's buying Africa wines. It's not really enough on social media, is it? In the old days, it was just social media news. So I'm going to go back to sources because I like sources. Where's my sources? Vendors. This is the news directly from social media companies. And I just want to be clear. This tool that I'm using, which is called Feedly. Oh, thanks, Francis. Yes, he's a libertarian on many issues. Libertarian doesn't work. But if I was going to be anything, I'd call myself a socialist libertarian. So I'm where the left and the right absolutely meet on the opposite side from the middle. Is that possible? I like communities setting their own rites of passage and rituals and all the anthropological things, which is a form of socialism, but I do not like big gov. So I don't know what it makes me except extremely confused, but a big believer in participatory democracy. So I was just thinking about it the other day. A lot of the PayPal mafia and those kind of guys are libertarians. Peter Thiel, who started PayPal, eBay, and one of the first investors in Facebook, is a libertarian, big libertarian. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting that they pursue that, but I guess, if you had mega billions, you would, wouldn't you? Anyway, what are we talking about? Come back to here. So, if you're not sure what's going on, yes, I have a chat up. And what I've noticed is everybody leaves the questions in the last few minutes as I'm saying goodbye, so I can't show them. So if you have a question, please put it up in the chat of whatever platform you're on. Francis is coming through from Facebooks. Yep, I don't want government to be too small. I enjoy having roads to drive on, public hospitals, public education, universal health care. It's so interesting because in Australia we have all of that, but we're not a socialist country. And it's impressive to me that our right-wing government gave out thousands of dollars to lots of Australians. Like, unemployment is job seeker, and then people who have a job but couldn't do it during COVID, it's job keeper. And what did they pay? $3,000 a month, $2,500 a month since March, since April, to lots of those people. I know arts missed out on a couple, and theatre and a couple of those kind of groups missed out, but compared to other countries, absolutely phenomenal. And that's a right-wing government. Goodness knows what the left-wing government would have given us. Lots and lots, probably. So, an update on the situation in Myanmar. Look, the press room, it interests me because it's so political, and it's what you have to understand with social media press rooms, which are basically blogs, is that that's about the positive news. So anything that they can say that's positive about their platform and what they're doing and proactively doing and things like that, the platform puts up on their blog, up on their social media press rooms. So, Facebook uses WordPress, so does Twitter. Has Twitter changed? But a lot of them use WordPress, and they use their blog as a social media platform to distribute their side of the story, which is positive, positive, positive. Then you flip to traditional media, heritage media, and everything's negative, negative, negative. And it's partly to do with the fact that, like, a fair code at the moment, they don't believe they're getting enough money from the AMP and what's the other one called? Instant stories and all the monetization that's available to them. They use them and they advertise on social media platforms, and they use the tools on social media platforms, but they don't. They're fighting against these platforms. So it's always negative, negative, negative. And remember, the role of influencers is replacing the role of writers and editors. So, fashion influencers on Instagram arguably are the next Vogue editors, in the sense that they aggregate an audience and then influence that audience. Black History Month, reaching billions of people with COVID-19 vaccine. So a lot of it's political. WhatsApp, making it easier to shop on WhatsApp with carts. So they've brought the shopping cart that Facebook has now, and Instagram has 2 shopping carts. I forget which one's rolled out in Australia. We're getting both if we haven't already. But what happens obviously when Facebook purchases Instagram and purchases WhatsApp is that they then create a matrix style app. What am I trying to say? Framework. So like iOS is a framework for apps. F8 or Fate is a framework that Facebook uses to provide those apps across all their platforms and all of their tools. So Facebook Pages being one app, and Facebook Profiles another one, and yada, yada, yada. Videos is another one. Shopping's another one. What's this? Supporting each other. Donating blood. You know, if Zuckerberg is libertarian, he's he's providing lots and lots of sort of community-based services off of the back of that. Opening an office in Lagos, Nigeria. Wow. I looked at a contract in Lagos once, and I loved these kind of places, but it was just a little too interesting for me. Perhaps ScoMo, that's our Prime Minister, didn't want to have the same experience. Oh, let me put this up. He had during the bushfires, so he went along with the financial support to people. Look, Francis, I think that's possibly right, but I also think that if you look at an economy and if you understand the trickle-down effect doesn't work, the people who made the most money during COVID are definitely not trickling it down. And some people are coming out of this with even more billions than they went into it. Hi, Jeff Bezos. Then you have to spend money to get the economy booming. And it's actually something that the left wing has always understood, and the economy's always done very well under the left wing on pure numbers. That's all I'm saying. Because they spend the money so that people can spend the money, and then the economy booms. And the rich still get richer. Behind the scenes with a WhatsApp engineering manager. I love these, but that's from May last year, so I would have read it already. Okay, so what else are we going to look at? Let me go into... Oh, I saw something the other day. I want to check this one out. Did you hear that Mark Zuckerberg is going to war with Apple over Apple's faux privacy declarations? And I'm saying faux because I mentioned in the last week's news that it's optional, or it's not. They're not chasing it. There's lots of fake disclaimers being made on the App Store that a product or a service is secured. Now, what I think Apple are doing they're ignoring all the mobs out there, all the little baby apps in the long tail, and they're keeping an eye on Facebook and Google. So what Google did was they didn't update their apps. I think they updated the YouTube one yesterday, and they hadn't updated it for months because they needed to go through and make sure they weren't leaving a case for Apple to remove the Google apps from the App Store for the iPhone. So the iPhone wouldn't have the apps anymore. Now, Google's always gone after the big data, the hidden data, by stealing the data. So they do it through pixels and they do it through sneaky means. And now they're being blocked from doing that. So pixel remarketing, gone. It has to be removed from Chrome very soon. You're going to have to reset up your website to do pixel tracking. It won't be a pixel, it'll be something else. Like the cookies got supplanted by pixels, a new thing coming in. So it's not possible now for Google Chrome to track the pixels of what everybody's doing. It has to be enabled at the back end of the site that they're visiting. Google doesn't value social data. So they got rid of helpouts and hangouts and Google Groups. Did they get rid of Google Groups? And so many of their social platforms have gone because they'd rather steal the data than gather the kind of data that Facebook gets from people just donating that content to them, if you like. Not that Facebook doesn't use big data third-party partners and pull all that data in and map it to users and things like that, because they absolutely do. Axiom, Epsilon, Datalogix, Quantium, all those big data companies are third-party partners, not only with Facebook, but with Twitter, with LinkedIn, and the others. In fact, Microsoft bought LinkedIn and said they were buying it for the data. Google completely kind of, except for YouTube, doesn't have social platforms in that way. So that's my roundabout way of saying it's kind of an interesting thing that Zuckerberg wants to inflict pain on Apple for the privacy changes. So Apple going after Facebook and Google with their privacy changes. One hack away. Wow. So the iOS 14's app tracking transparency. But like I said, there were so many apps, and this journalist reverse engineered them to see if their labels were correct, and they weren't. And they asked for Apple to respond, and they didn't. And they even went to the companies, and most of them didn't respond. You'll need to watch the last week's video to find out more about that if you're interested. Where are we up to? People from Zuckerberg. Yeah, I agree, Francis. It's good economics to give people purchasing power, but clearly not too much, because if you give them too much, there's that idea that they will no longer be functioning members of society. That's rubbish. I mean, even pre-currency economies. So when we're looking back at the gift economy and we look back at the bartering economies, and if you look at it from a anthropological, even a social psychological point of view, people like to feel useful in the community. And what doesn't make them feel useful is when they can't get ahead, when their bills are much higher than their income. And it's been a tough year for a lot of people. So that's the issue. I would say I don't have a problem with a universal basic income, a UBI, because I know it's like when people retire, woohoo, I don't have to do anything. And I think people may have retired or semi-retired, at least temporarily during COVID, and it takes not long. And suddenly it's like, I want to be useful. I want to volunteer to help. I want to go back and do some work. I want to be a functioning member of this community again. And in spite of the fact that we've been beaten by, that kind of capitalist corporate farms, fodder for the corporate farms, we do tend to shift back to wanting to be useful again. Oh, they're preparing an antitrust lawsuit and running a marketing campaign. I want to see the marketing campaign. What's this? It will be devastating. They use misleading data, altering figures, and spreading disinformation. Facebook's specific claim that the average small business advertiser stands to see a cut of over 60% in the sales of every dollar. I can tell you now that 60% of small businesses are not using the kind of privacy invasion features that Apple are talking about. Okay. Let me explain this. Facebook's dancing a fine edge here because there's a declarative kind of a Facebook ad where you go in and you say, I want to create an ad to sell, I don't know, sunglasses. And I want to target women who like fashion and this and this and this, different things. And that's called a saved audience, and that's you've manually created that audience and you've said who you want to target. Where they're dancing the fine edge is that Facebook doesn't like too many people to know that their credit card details, what they purchase on credit card, is coming into Facebook via the third-party partner. They pushed everything back. After Cambridge Analytica, they've pushed everything back to the third-party partners and used their data within Facebook rather than Facebook collecting the data and using it. So I can't go in now and target people who spent X dollars on their credit card anymore, but I can target people who are interested in fashion, and then that data is pulled from third-party partners. So it's a bit of a semantic thing, literally a semantic engine, but also it's has to do with how the data works. So to claim that 60% of the sales will suffer indicates that a good 60% of even the little ads that people are doing that aren't using pixels or any what they think of as privacy, like I just want to target people who like sunglasses, that a lot of that data is coming over this kind of grey barrier. It's probably got a technical term. I don't know what it is. If you know, let me know. But I've always known that I can target people who show an interest in Hawaii, and that data is coming from third-party websites. So somebody Googles a holiday in Hawaii and then looks at some travel sites and then suddenly gets the ads on Facebook, and they were interested in Hawaii. It didn't mean they liked a Facebook page about Hawaii or clicked on something on Facebook about Hawaii. It's using the third-party partner data. So that's why it's confusing to people, I think, because absolutely no way does the average small business advertiser use the kind of sophisticated tools that lets them get into some of that data, but that we know that in general Facebook does. It might show that companies who knew their customers well achieved a higher return on advertising spend than customers that didn't. Yes, of course, I find that out all the time. You cannot do broadcast ads on Facebooks. In fact, they'll reject an ad that does not move that down. That does not, what am I trying to say? Facebook rejects ads that are not targeted well. You get a message from them, unfortunately this ad basically didn't perform, too boring, not the right, it's the wrong content to the wrong audience at the wrong time. They don't say that. They just say they were unable to deliver the ad. 44% of small to medium-sized businesses started or increased their usage of personalised ads on social media during the pandemic. Yes, good. I had audiences that split into two. One was they stopped all social media and backed right off and just basically shut up shop. And then there were the ones that went hard. If the restaurant was closed, then they got the chefs of the restaurant to put up a menu you can make at home every week, just to keep the love that the community has for that restaurant, that kitchen, that RSL club, whatever, going. And you can imagine that the people who vanished in 9 months, they have to restart, or in a year they have to restart. People who kept their organic content and their ad content going worked well. The industry with the largest increase was telecom and technology, but the increase was only 34%. That's interesting. Did your phone company and your internet company, I've got to keep this down the page because my little head keeps blocking them. Did your phone company or your internet company reduce your bills or make some other kind of a grand gesture during COVID? Or did they, like mine, put the prices up? And I immediately went in and negotiated a much better deal than I had previously by threatening to leave. Because my point was that I wasn't using my phone because I wasn't leaving the house. And I already had unlimited internet, so I was, FaceTiming with people, Zooming. Have a look at your plan. And if you can see better plans, ring them and say, this is what I say. Let me give you a tip. I ring up and I go, oh, when's my contract up, please? And then they usually say, it's already up, or it's up next month. It's fairly soon. Oh, great, thank you. How do I exit out of my plan? And they go, why do you want to exit out of your plan? I got a much better plan. And they go, what's your plan? And I say, instead of $99 a month, I've got one for $40 a month. And then after some toing and froing, they never quite meet it. I'll say, it's still not very good. Okay, I'm going to leave. We've got a special plan. We can only offer a few customers. And now I'm interested. That's what I do. Saves me mucking around too much with number portability today, whatever. But I know you're not ringing. I know you're not ringing. I know you're not watching for those kind of tips. But if you've got time off for COVID, get your bills down. I worked extremely hard in the first 3 months to get every outgoing down because I didn't know what was going to happen. I ended up being fine. I switched my real-life classrooms to Zoom and they took off, but I didn't know that was going to happen. So I panicked. It's a horrible time, really horrible. But then, it was for everybody, and people had a much worse time than me. I will have to comply with Apple's privacy stance if they're going to take them to court, yada yada. I suspect a number of people upgraded their internet plans, especially during remote learning if they had kids, to improve their video streaming and gaming experiences. Yeah, more than likely. And what was interesting for me was that so many announcements came out about our NBN service, Francis, and how poor it is, and that they're now shifting from fibre to the house, to the curb. And I looked it up, and it was $18,000 to bring it to the house, and I actually considered it for 2 minutes. I think I'll wait for the rest of the street to come on board, and I'm pretty sure I'm like the heaviest user. And my partner, Gary Hayes, is a very heavy user and streams for an hour or so at a time, a couple of times a week as well. If you're watching this and ringing me, I'm still live streaming. So I'll just put my phone over there. Are you happy with Zoom and the updates to it? I use my, what am I trying to say? I use a Blackmagic A10 Mini Pro ISO, which is a vision switcher for 4 cameras, 2 mics. When I have my green screen, I can shift my green screen around, and then that plugs into a Stream Deck. I don't even know if I can lift it up. This thing, which lets me tap all the buttons to shift, from, I don't know, that to this and this to that. And then the mic and the camera and the monitors, I've got a few here, and the Blackmagic plug into the Stream Deck, plug into the computer, and the Stream Deck manages all of them. And then I use a free tool called OBS Project, which runs on Mac and Windows and Linux and things. And that allows me to set up zooming in and out and straps on the bottom and my countdown, just different things. And then that plugs into Zoom. So it's a bit of a sophisticated setup, which is one of the reasons why on Monday Social Media News today, I test any changes I'm making. So for instance, I've got a little new box called a M Audio Fast Track, which lets me sync better my mic, and my mic sounds better. And the mic plugs into that, and then from that into the Blackmagic. So it's a pretty sophisticated setup. So I do need to check everything, because then when I do a Zoom live, and I've got a Zoom this afternoon, I simply turn on virtual camera on OBS project, and then Zoom picks it up, and I have all the same vision switching and light changes and changing the colour of the lights in the background and green screens and everything that I already use for my lives, just plugs directly into Zoom. So my understanding, I do want to point out that Zoom had a security issue, and I think that's maybe what you're talking about with the updates. Maybe you can clarify that for me. But the hackability of Zoom went away when they, probably not permanently. Is anything ever permanently done? But they fixed a lot of the issues with Zoom. And I imagine that I mentioned before Clubhouse having an issue. I think Clubhouse will fix their issues, but I don't want to be in that initial beta version that is of a concern to me. What's interesting is Cisco's WebEx had security and hacking issues in November, and the other tools do as well. So very few tools don't need updates from time to time. And I'm fine with Zoom because it just works. Where it doesn't work or it's failed for me is in recordings, and I can partially record from my Stream Deck or my OBS. It doesn't record what the clients are saying on Zoom, but at least I have a backup of my screen and the others. Francis, would you like me to do a live stream explaining my studio setup? If you would, let me know, because I can always swap out a Monday News for like a tutorial, if you like. All right. So are we at half an hour yet? Yeah, we're at 38 minutes. I think I'm going to finish up now. I don't know. Is that a good idea? Right. Yes, it is, because I'm going gaga. So if you're coming in at the end of the video, welcome and goodbye. Mondays mornings is me catching up on social media news. Today was kind of interesting. It was Elon Musk inviting Vladimir Putin to Clubhouse. My ideas about Clubhouse. There was Apple and Google and Facebook wars, the Great War of 2021. I don't know. Google's fair code and Facebook submitting something to Parliament. Different things like that. So there you go. Thursday, we've said goodbye to government and social media tutorial lecture live streams. There is a playlist which I will put in the comments for you to go and watch those if you're interested in government and social media, or about how to write a strategy and targeting and ads and all that kind of stuff. The next series, which we've done one of, is universities. So university and social media, colleges and social media strategy was last Thursday. This Thursday at 1 p.m. is social media strategy for universities and college, focusing on monitoring dashboards. So I am going to go through this setup. Let me get out of the way. No, I can't do that. This setup, and not just Feedly, but other social media tools. So it's a social media toolbox for universities and colleges who have specific requirements. I'm only really interested at the moment in doing live streams in verticals, because otherwise it's, every time somebody asks me, what social media tool do you recommend? I'm like, It depends. It depends on your industry, your call to actions, your COIs, ROIs, return on investment, or cost of acquisition, a whole range of things. So Thursday, 1 p.m, Sydney time, social media for universities and colleges. And next Monday, social media news, unless Francis gets back to me and says that he wants me to do a live stream on how I live stream. I'm not sure if I can do that. Maybe I need to do a video, like a recorded video. Otherwise, it's going to become Inception Point. I think that's it. Thank you for joining me today. I can see there's a few other people on, but only Francis and I are chatting, which is good. Thanks, Francis. It's nice to have a little chat. And what have I got this week? All Zooms. I was thinking the other day, I'm just now missing speaking, presenting at conferences, like walking out onto stage, and with that bit of, I want to get out there and talk to people about things. And I think maybe I was in burnout before, and it's just starting to come back. Yeah, I want to do this again. Yeah, you might have to make it into a video. Yeah, I think so too. But I can live stream using my iPhone as the main camera and then show the other cameras set up. But I think the OBS part would be difficult to show you unless I filmed a clip and then live streamed the clip. It's possible. I need to give it some thought. Mondays is not about a lot of thought. Mondays is about me discovering things and playing around. And Thursdays is a lecture series. It's a 50-minute lecture, roundabout, and it's with a specific narrative arc. Mondays is me waffling on, as you can tell. And by the way, people have said to me, you shouldn't do that. It's bad for your SEO and SMO and all those things. I absolutely know that. But I also know you have to break the rules sometimes. And I realized that I was very tempted to not live stream, to not be a content creator until I had everything perfect. So I don't want to do a podcast until I have everything set up and it's all perfect and the format and the process is all done. And I don't want to do live stream news until it's all perfect and everything's done. And I don't want to do university style lectures, because I'm a university lecturer, live until I've got, that mishmash of tech and the university structure done. And I don't want to do online courses until everything's sorted and done. I don't want to do private tutorials until everything's sorted and done. And you end up putting so many roadblocks in the way. So the best way to get started is to start. And if you go back and look at my earliest live streams, it was one camera view and it was a pretty poor camera and I don't think I used a mic. I think I used a little $19 mic onto the camera, because it came after my online courses. I can't remember now. And just start. If you want to do a podcast, go to, what's that Spotify one called? Anchor FM. Go to Anchor FM and just start. Make sure that they give you your own email address. Use your own email address for the Apple submissions. That's stupid. I'm sorry, I had to flip it around for that bloody Skype because it reverses everything. So I can't do a headless me at the moment. Or maybe I can. Hide that one. There we go. I vanished. Poof. Perfect can sometimes be the enemy of good. Sometimes, absolutely. And I'm not perfect. And there are definitely days when I'm not good. Today is one of them. But I did it. I can tick it off. I'm learning all the time. And I've been creating online videos for courses and live streams and talk panel shows for YouTube, for instance, since I think 2007 or 2008, definitely 2008. So that's 13 years and I'm still pretty crap, but we won't go into that right now. I hope you found this interesting. If you have any sessions that you would like me to do, a specific question or something, please let me know. I do want to investigate how to pull in guests into this session so that 2 or 3 of us can talk about the news. It's not that easy. I have to do virtual sound because I have a virtual camera, but I don't have the virtual cables for virtual sound. It's all very complicated, but I would like to do it. Who would you like to see on a panel where we're chatting about the social medias? And don't say Vladimir Putin and Elon Musk. Although I'd be up for chatting to them about social media, but I don't know that I'd be top of their list. All right. Guess I'm going to love you and leave you. See you Thursday for the lecture if you're joining us. See you Monday next week for social media news. See you in my Zoom sessions if that's your thing. And I have to put that in there. Justify spending nearly an hour on here, 45 minutes. I'm going to love you and leave you as usual. Let me put the countdown on, otherwise it clips off too soon. Thanks. Bye. Countdown.